Honourable Speaker of the National Assembly, Honourable Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Honourable Members of Parliament, fellow South Africans. We rise today on behalf of Umkhonto weSizwe Party, the official opposition in Parliament, to respond to Mr. Ramaphosa's 2025 failed state of the nothingness address, an address that regrettably felt less like a reflection of our nation state and more like a maiden speech of someone who's just been newly appointed to a job, laden with recycled promises, hollow rhetoric, and dressed in the usual fanfare that has become the hallmark of these kind of annual events. The SONA platform is not meant to be a ceremonial spectacle or a stage for lofty promises. It should be a moment of accountability where the nation hears an honest assessment of past commitments and concrete plans for the future. Instead, we witnessed yet another episode of political theatrics, a fashion show camouflaged with empty, hot air rhetoric. Mr. Ramaphosa's speech was filled with promises eerily similar to those made in 2024, 2023, and even earlier. Let us not be fooled by his eloquence. South Africans deserve more, Mr. President, than promises. They deserve results. We have listened to these commitments before, and yet the realities on the ground tell a different story. A story of betrayal, neglect, and failure. Now let's look at the military sacrifices. We mourn the loss of 14 South African soldiers, with this number still rising. These young men and women died not to defend our sovereignty, but to protect the government's economic interests in foreign lands. The least you could have done was to equip them better, yet you led your incompetent, less caring finance minister to keep defunding the military budget. Their blood is in the hands of the government that prioritizes profits over people. A failed state. Unemployment and poverty. The president speaks of economic growth and job creation, but the facts expose the truth. Whilst the population grows at the rate of 1.3 million people a year, the South Africa's unemployment rate remains the highest globally, sitting at 42%, with young people's unemployment exceeding 60%. Millions of our people, particularly the youth, are stuck in a cycle of poverty with no clear path out. The so-called inclusive growth has excluded majority, particularly black working class. Again, it's a failed state. Crime and gender-based violence. The president mentions crime reduction efforts, but South Africans live daily in fear. Violent crime rates have surged, with over 27,000 murders recorded last year alone. Women and children continue to face the brunt of this violence. Gender-based violence remains a national crisis, yet the government response is fragmented and unfunded. Our police are under-resourced, demoralized, and often complicit in the same crimes they are meant to prevent. Let alone the fact that, by the way, the 10,111 contact center number doesn't work. Again, a failed state. Landless and homelessness, land reform has been short of nothing of a disaster under this administration. The Expropriation Act, recently signed into law, is nothing but a rebranded apartheid relic, a repackaging of the Expropriation Act of 1975. It does nothing to address historical land issues. It is the same apartheid wine in a different bottle. The MK Party will not endorse half-baked legislation. We will push for an amendment of Section 25 of the Constitution to enable genuine land expropriation without compensation, to return the land to our people. And again, we know it's a failed state. Diluted national health insurance. The national health insurance signed into law is a betrayal to the needs of our people. It will not collapse private medical aids, but will instead make them richer. This government remains committed to protecting white capital interests, always pleasing whiteness at the expense of our people. Our hospitals continue to fall apart. Clinics lack basic supplies. Mothers give birth in corridors. Children die due to preventable diseases. President, this is a failed state. Education crisis. Our schools have become drug dens rather than centers of learning. Infrastructure is crumbling. Children still learn under trees, pit toilets, overcrowded classrooms. The Bella Act, now in the hands of the DA in consultation with the AfriForum, We will not transform our education system because of the racist DA who will then never implement that good for blacks. It will be another law gathering dust while our children suffer. Again, this is a failed state. In conclusion, the MK party stands firm. We will not be complicit in endorsing laws, policies that betray the people. We will fight relentlessly for real land reform, genuine economic transformation, and for the dignity of the restoration of the crumbling health of our education systems. We will champion justice for poor, marginalized, and those left behind. This is not just our responsibility as the official opposition, it is our revolutionary duty, born from the struggles of our forebearers, to hold this government accountable. Mr. President, sir, you lead a failed state. Kwaza mkhonto kwaza!